Hello, everyone. Welcome to Telling Tales. Welcome to Symbaroum. We come to you a little bit late tonight from a certain amount of turbulence. One of our number is currently involved in open combat with a router, so we'll see how that goes. In the meantime, hi, it's Wednesday, so we're here. If you notice that some or all of us are a little flush tonight, that's because it's really quite warm on this part of the planet. So also, if we seem tired, sluggish, and irritable, or at least more so than usual, that will probably be why. Okay, we've actually got everyone on board. There we go. Lovely stuff. All right. Before we start bringing people on and doing recaps and stuff, let's talk promo. Down below this stream, you will see a number of links. There are links to Twitch, where we stream live. There's a link to YouTube, where all of our streams go afterwards. There are also links to our Discord, our Patreon, our social media. Those all do what you might expect. If you want to get involved with those, get involved. At the moment, we're in a bit of a lull at the moment, where there's lots of like little breaks of stuff going on. But broadly speaking, we run Vason on Mondays. That is coming back either this Monday or possibly the Monday after, depending on how long some disasters strike for some people. Wednesdays is Symbaroum. That's this. Thursdays is currently lying fallow, but will be filled probably on the 21st of September by Wicked Ones, which is going to start fortnightly. There's also going to be the conclusion of Big Wet at some point during that. It's a lovely apocalyptic survival indie RPG. I think that's pretty much it. We also run one-shots on a monthly basis. The last one was Hell Night towards the end of August. September's, again, we don't have a date for it, but it is nominally a third one in Johnny's series of Space Age Call of Cthulhu. So look out for that. It'll end up on either on our events on Discord or on our schedule on Twitch. So just keep your eyes peeled. Keep your eyes peeled for those things. All right, let's start bringing people on and start doing the old recap thing. And the first player joining me tonight on this wonderful digital stage is Stephen. Hi, Stephen.
Hi. I am both psyched and pumped. Thank you for asking.
Good. Excellent. Stephen plays Alindra, who is a former Templar novice turned adventurer and solver of problems with a big sword that's sometimes on fire. Stephen, why don't you tell us exactly what's happening in the Witch Hammer?
Precisely, in a great deal. I'm going to gloss over a bunch of stuff. Right, so we're essentially a band of treasure hunters. And we are with all slightly differing motivations, but we're essentially trying to find a mythical lost city, or trying to find the treasure and the payday within it, or trying to find the person that had the clues to find it, to maybe see if she needs some help, or trying to ensure that nobody else finds it, optionally as part of the Iron Pact. Or just trying not to die in the sort of multifaceted war that appears to be in the process of breaking out while we've been chasing one or more of those goals.
I don't know what you mean. That war? What war? What impending war?
It's fine. Like the party's been quite remote in the forest for quite a long time, so we've not been in that much direct contact with it. It'll probably all blow over.
It'll be over by Christmas.
So the current bit of the quest involves trying to find a way to get into the tunnels underneath the plateau of Carvosti, and apparently the plan to get this information is to go to an incredibly haunted and distinctly cursed island, attempt to find a ziggurat, and within that ziggurat attempt to find a sort of ghostly high priest of some long murdered civilization, and just see if they'll feel kind enough to tell us. Like, it's
what could go wrong with a slam dunk plan like that? Yeah,
like, it's a no-brainer, right?
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of no-brainer,
that is a rough segue.
So, speaking of no brains, here's someone who does not have no brains.
You're not. Oh, all right. Thank you, Prime Minister Sunak.
To be fair, just to your right there, Chris, is someone who looks like they adorably have no brains. So,
yeah, custard dog is good.
That could be the segue.
Anyway, let's get
Anyway,
welcome
on board, Chris. Chris plays Steo, former infantryman, former town guard, turned elderly, grumbling adventurer. Chris, how's Steo feeling right now on the haunted Isle of Yefferon?
I'm just trying to get over my own upset, but I think Steo
That's fair.
Steo's doing okay. I think it's not. He's not comfortable with being around the undead and under any circumstance, and has not yet had to fight the ethereal undead. So it's a little bit. Is understanding that he's a little bit out of his depth.
Yeah, sure. I think that's certainly fair enough in this setting. Cool. Okay, let's bring on someone who also has brains. It's Sam. Sam, hi Sam. Sam plays Ascarai, Changeling, Ranger, Archer, Scout. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to not be brought on as the guy who has no courage, like it's the fucking Wizard of Oz or something. Yeah, going well. Good.
Is Ascarai glad to have his trusty bow and arrows with him here?
I think Ascarai is very pleased that whatever these things are, the bow and arrow seems to not be 100% useless against it. Like,
yeah,
he maybe had that thought going in, and is now like, okay, well, at least I'm not like a complete sitting duck and of some worth fighting these things, even if it still is absolutely terrifying and a horrible place to be.
I don't know if we've had this before, but certainly the thing they have, the trait they have that reduces the damage you deal them, the next level up is only magic weapons damage them at all, and only do half damage.
I'm sure we won't find any enemies with a level up of this.
Certainly not. It's not like this. It's not like this campaign is going to escalate in any way and become sort of an absolute nightmare of. Anyway, I've made my point. Yeah, this arrived today, folks. The sixth and final episode in the Chronicle of the Throne of Thorns. Will we make it that far? And maybe more to the point, will any of the characters they're currently playing make it this far?
We get off for an hour. I'll be content with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's bring on our final player. It's John. John has had a mildly dramatic evening, but it's all good now. John plays Sir Aaron Dar, last remaining member of the noble house of Dar. And somewhat naive and optimistic adventurer who still foolishly believes in the goodness of the human soul. John, how's Aaron Dar feeling in this very bleak place?
Got to put my mic over. Aaron is feeling, I think, a little bit rattled. He got a little bit rattled last session, as I think we might briefly touch on. So he's definitely less confident than he was when they first arrived. But, he's as optimistic as you can be on an island of the dead, I guess.
Absolutely. I think that's it's important to have that caveat, right? Like, there's a certain relative scale of optimism here. Where there's only so optimistic you can be where you are. Yeah. And speaking of where you are, let's have a brief talk about what happened last session. So at the beginning of last session, the party arrived on the Isle of Yefferon on Lake Volgoma, brought there by some friendly Zarek tribes people. You immediately got the sense that something is wrong here. I think is the not controversial opinion to hold. The whole place seemed to be basically held in some kind of rip or tear in the world that felt odd to pass through it and left you in this kind of like slightly muffled, dampened, weatherless place, an aisle covered so far as you've seen in just dust and rock and ruins. You made your way into these ruins, but almost the first thing you encountered, other than seeing kind of glimpses of shadowy forms, was a great many of these shadowy forms whirling around an individual sat by an old monument, which, after climbing up and getting a bit of a vantage, you saw was what seemed to be an elf sat singing and somehow perhaps captivating these wraiths or doing something in order to keep them in the place they were. You decided, despite the signs that other people had made it through the circle of wraiths to perhaps interact with the elf in some way, you thought the discretion was the better part of valor on this one, and moved on. And you moved on to a point along a small river running through these ruins, where on the other side you saw something glinting. Your recent hire, Malamai, decided to swim over, find out what it was, found a body, found a knapsack, and at that point you were attacked by wraiths. They crept close to you, and who was it who was actually... It was Arendar, right? Was the one touched by a wraith, which is my favorite 90s TV show. Very few people will get that joke. Yeah, they leached the strength out of your body rather than causing you direct damage. But you managed to fight off the wraiths. They were susceptible, if resilient, to all your damage, and you managed to fight off the wraiths. Malamai returned to the other side and revealed that what he had discovered was a number of papers, which Anton immediately kind of like took away from him to read through, it being in maybe a dialect that couldn't be understood by Malamai himself. And what he has said is a map. And that's where we left the last session. So without any further ado, yeah, what are we doing, folks?
Let's see the map then, Malamai.
Yeah,
What?
probably crowding around the map.
That seems like a reasonable thing. So you all kind of crowd around as he rolls out the parchment, and you can see that there are a number of lines drawn on it, but they seem sort of very, very faded. It looks like someone is going to have to sit down with this thing and do some work to try and sort of see where these lines are and try and fill them out again so the map can actually be read. Malamai is just kind of looking at it with a wrinkled brow. He's probably not the one to pick for this.
I have said in the past that Alindra has kind of kept a sketchbook of things, so like I don't know mechanically what you're going to make me roll, but I think she would volunteer to try to.
I think it's reasonable to know what I'm going to make you roll. I'm going to make people, whoever does it is going to roll vigilant and then cunning.
I mean, I'm not great at those things, but sure. Like,
it's kind of between you and Anton, and it's probably better if we don't rely on the one who's not here.
Absolutely. Okay. Malamai kind of passes it over to you, and as he does so, you know what? He reaches into a little pouch at his hip and pulls out a little stick of charcoal and passes that to you as well.
I don't really. Yeah, I was looking to see if I had anything that might be helpful with such things.
The only thing that would be helpful is if anyone has the boon cartographer, which I don't think anyone does.
I think even Anton doesn't have that. Okay, so what am I rolling?
You'll be rolling just a straight vigilant roll at first to try and make out and perceive the lines.
I needed a 10. I got an 11.
Yeah, you can tell the lines are there, you know, but like it's that thing where you're looking at one point and then all the rest just kind of disappear for you. It's really faded and quite hard to make out.
This used to have lines on it.
Oh, it's too far gone. That's just our luck.
Are we
I
just
don't
giving
think
this
there's
up as a bad deal? Is no one else going to give it a go?
I think we'd probably ask Anton to give it a try.
Yeah,
As a,
he's
I think
He-
Anton
he-
took the map of the sinkhole, if I'm not mistaken.
he did.
He
He,
did,
mapped the
yeah.
sinkhole, and he's just generally our go-to guy for like mysterious parchments, right?
Absolutely, sure. Who's rolling for Anton today? Ascarai is talking a big Anton game. Let's have Sam control Anton. Have you got his sheet there?
I can get out very quickly. Askra is famously Anton's canoe buddy, so like it's fair.
Sure.
I think he has pretty good. I think he has terrible vigilant, but good cunning.
No, he's got pretty good vigilant.
Okay, he just always fails vigilant, so I assume
Yeah.
he has
He fails everything.
It's not
Okay,
Anton.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it flat vigilant?
It's flat vigilant, yeah, and he'll kind of tuck the other parchments into his robe and kind of like start to pore over the map and get on like there's some kind of like low walls nearby, and he's going to kind of rest on that and take a look.
He just made it with a lucky 13, which is his vigilant.
Okay, so yeah, he's kind of muttering under his breath and tracing the lines with his fingers, and he seems to be kind of understanding where they all are. But now he has to draw it well. So can you make a cunning check for him as well, please?
Okay, his cunning is 11. That's a 16.
Okay. Is anyone else going to maybe? I'm happy with someone else to work with Anton, but I'm only going to give you one more chance, I think. So if someone else wants to take a cunning roll, +1 for Anton's help, I'm happy for that to be the case. Or do we just want to give up on it? It's
I
fine.
don't know who's got the cunning amongst us.
My cunning is a coin flip. But then
yes.
again, Steo's the kind of person who doesn't know very much about maps, but as an ex-military man,
But he knows what he
knows
likes.
a lot about maps. Yeah. So I think Steo will probably go in.
Yeah, lean over with Anton and kind of. He seems to be becoming a bit confused about kind of how to replicate the lines without just tracing over the bits he's trying to recognize.
Okay, 12s are better. Thinking of spending an XP on it.
So to you,
I think I'm going to spend an XP on it. Oh, whew.
Yes.
There we go. So basically, Steo, you're kind of like holding the charcoal with a steady hand and sort of you can hardly see the lines, but Anton is basically like kind of going down, west, east, sort of to trace them around. And once they're finished, and let's see if the old StreamYard image sharer is working here. This is what you have. Nothing.
Hooray.
Okay.
It's a map of somewhere very dark.
The annoying thing is the preview is there. So I don't know why. I'm starting to become very frustrated with the StreamYard on this. It is not good.
Do you want to send it over to me?
Oh, I will just do this. He said, nowhere near doing it.
So lovely weather on this Isle of the Dead.
There we go.
Yay!
Works instantly when I do it in an application window, but not when I do it full screen.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
So that monument with the skull and crossbones, we did right not to approach that then.
Seems a safe bet.
Where's the city, though? That must be where.
You're in the city.
Yeah, but where's the city on the map?
doesn't seem to be drawn.
I wonder
'Cause
what
I
the
don't, like-
X is.
I still think we need to get higher ground.
I agree, but I wonder if is the X more important or is the ziggurat more important? Does the X just represent a way to get to the ziggurat, or does ziggurat represent a way to get to the X?
Might just be the start of the path, or it might be somebody else's plan to get here from the south. And that's where they intend to land.
True. I suppose we should head there and see what's there, and from there to the ziggurat.
I mean, that X looks like we would reach it before we reach the high ground anyway. It's this side of the.
Yeah, I mean, it depends where you are going up the river, or that's what you said. So,
So the river is the line from the kind of southwest.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah, which eventually leads to that kind of mountain range that, I suppose mountain range is probably overstating it a bit. The island's not that big. But
yeah, it's
the higher ground.
It's a ridge of low hills.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
But perhaps we could cross the river and head to the shore, and up the shoreline maybe takes us more directly to where that X is, whatever that represents.
I think so. Is there a river crossing marked on there? Is there a bridge?
There is.
Seen a bridge?
There it is. There.
Yeah, you've gone past a bridge. You think that is the bridge you've gone past.
Okay. So
Do we just swim for it? It's not far, and I think most of the danger's past. And then I think we know the direction we have to go. Like,
How was the river, Malamar? Is it okay to
Fine.
cross?
Fine. Cold. Fine.
Okay.
I don't feel any different.
it saves us a walk back to the bridge, and it saves us potentially drawing attention to ourselves.
It would get all your packs wet.
I'm trying to work out if that would ruin like rations and stuff, or
It wouldn't help.
It also probably wouldn't help.
It would be very difficult for us. DeGesto's fire tube. It also would.
okay.
It would also get Askarai's bowstring potentially wet, which
Yeah, those are not things that we want to get wet.
How far back was the bridge from where we are now?
not far, maybe a 5-minute walk.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
backtrack. Okay.
Sure. You do indeed backtrack through the city, and you come to a low stone bridge which leads over to another set of ruins. The set of ruins on the south side seem a lot kind of thinner and a bit more sparse. You think this area of the city was maybe more the outskirts. And as you cross the bridge and start walking through the streets on the other side, you see that the city seems to be coming to an end within like a few streets or so of where you are. And that kind of coastline you're moving towards definitely seems to be sort of more kind of sparsely settled, let's say, than where you are now. I think we're just continuing onwards.
Yeah,
So,
sort of
yeah.
heading as I guess as far as we can figure out directions in this place, trying to head just east right till we hit the coast.
Yeah, I mean you can see the most southerly point of that ridge of hills easily. It's way upland from where you are, so you could just head straight towards it if you want.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Okay. You trudge on through the outskirts of the city and out onto an area that's more kind of like sort of patchy wasteland where there are some kind of old structures that are tumbled down, but mostly it's just kind of like dust and rocks and the kind of slightly diminishing sound of the elves singing receding into the distance behind you. You within maybe not long, maybe kind of like 10 or 15 minutes or so, you do reach basically that kind of like southern, like north-south coastline at the bottom there that you were looking at, that you tried to reach. You can see as you approach it that they're cliffs. And they're not colossal, but they're not low either. Kind of, there's no beach to get to down there. You can kind of go close enough to look over and see the very slight waves of Volgoma kind of lapping against the side of them. And you can see as you look north from here that kind of dark ridge of hills, just about kind of mostly blocking your view of the other side of the island. But you can see over a shallow bay the other side of the island, and all you can see is landscape like where you are now, like low, scrubby wasteland with rocks and dust and nothing else apart from kind of the odd shadowy blur that might be perhaps a wraith roaming around that sort of southeast shoreline.
The map kind of implied that we should be at the top of the cliffs rather than the bottom of them.
Yeah, you are at the top of the cliffs.
Yeah, so I think we just...
I mean, you can just go along the ridge of the cliffs northeastwards and try and find whatever that X is.
Yeah.
At the point where the...
I think that's the general plan.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'm going to be trying to work out, though, right, is that we're on some cliffs. We're looking across to some cliffs on the other side of that, for want of a better description, fjord, like that kind of inlet. The ziggurat.
You're trying to figure out why you can't see the ziggurat.
Yeah, like is that like a fog thing, or does it look like the ground kind of disappears downwards? Or
well, the other side of the bay here is also cliffs. So for a start, you're trying to look at lower land blocked by higher land slightly. Also, the ridge of the hills is blocking your view of it. You feel like most of the eastern half of the island. And also, if you want a real reason that Alindra won't know, I'm looking at the actual map. As opposed to the slightly shitty map you've replicated.
Sure.
The plan stands. Let's head for the X.
Yeah. Are you heading like towards the X specifically, or are you trying to get on top of the ridge of hills first, or yeah?
I think kind of it's cross purposes, because if we go to the X, then the next step is the ridge. So I think X first, ridge second.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, in that case, you make your way forwards along the cliff tops. The hills get very close kind of very quickly, and you see that the hills kind of end on the south side with a long steep descent that runs past the cliff. So the cliffs kind of like fold into this long slope that leads down to the water side, where you can see like a pebbled stony beach. And at the bottom of that, you can see that there is some kind of crevice or cave right where, kind of just up from the waterline, where the hill comes down and the cliff sides kind of bend down. There is some kind of crevice down there.
Cave, a tunnel.
I'd mark that with an X if I was writing a map. Do we descend?
I think we found our spot. The advice was to try to find a way in or under the ziggurat, and not to go the obvious way, but to try to. I think this is exactly what we're looking for.
Why on earth did the owner of this map not take advantage of it? Anyway, look, we're already in hell. We may as well go a little bit heller. Can we get down safely? That looks a bit of scree.
You could definitely get down safely. You might have to be cautious while you're doing it. DeGesto is kind of like looking around and looking over the east side of the island with his hands on his hips, and he says, "Do we want to check the top of the ridge first?"
It would save us going up twice, wouldn't it?
It would. If there is a tunnel down there, it will let us check whether or not the tunnel seems to be going in about the right direction.
and how far could lead.
Yeah, let's orientate ourselves.
Sounds like a good idea. You're a very clever man.
Yeah.
He starts kind
Let's
of
go.
tromping up the hill.
I think, is
Okay.
that the first time that DeGuesto's made a suggestion that we've all gone, yeah, all right.
I think so, actually. I think it might have been, yeah.
I think that's a special moment for him.
Yeah, absolutely. So you reach. It doesn't take long to reach the top of this ridge of dark hills at all, and you see more or less what you expected to see. And let's bring this up. You do get the sense that perhaps the map is a bit skewed. It's not exactly accurate, but it's a roughly decent idea of the layout of the eastern half of the island. The ziggurat is a bit further north than it's depicted on this map. It's a 3-stepped ziggurat, as you can see there. It's very large, but not hugely tall. It seems to be quite old and is made up of... it's about 100 meters high, you'd estimate, and made up of red speckled black granite with a rectangular base, each side maybe 200 paces wide or so. It is surrounded by a large wall of relatively low similar granite that seems cracked in a number of places. Doesn't seem like it'd be difficult to get through. The wall is quite far out from the ziggurat, although much further out to the south than the north. In the space of that kind of open, almost courtyard space, to the south of the ziggurat is a dark blur, which anyone among you who makes a vigilant roll at, let's say, -2 can determine more clearly.
I don't know what this is, but I'm going to roll.
I'm gonna give it a try.
I just made it.
I did not.
How about Steo?
I am in full on what your elf eye see mode with this one, and my eyes are too old for this.
Okay. It all looks like a blur to the rest of you. Ascarai, you see what looks like a great many figures standing in military-style parade rows.
Can I tell if they look like living humans or the wraith things?
Oh,
or
definitely not from this
just
distance.
figures.
Yeah.
Okay. I will relay this through. There's a lot of some kind of humanoid thing down there.
This is why we have to search for a better way than a direct strike.
What is also apparent, as you see from this ridge, if you look to kind of like the central or eastern north of the island there, it's almost imperceptible in the way that Antum and Steo have mapped it out. But do you see the thing that looks like it might be an island on that north shore? You see where it looks like either it's a promontory or an island, depending on how you interpret those lines. It is an island offshore. It's not huge. It's a biggish, it's not a small spit of land, but clearly it's not huge here.
Any notable features on it, or is it just
not that certainly no huge ones because you can't see them, but you'd have to come a lot closer to like.
Okay. And on the map would seem to imply that the northeast corner of the island and maybe the north as well is forest.
You can see what looks like scattered, desiccated trees.
Okay,
but it's not a forest in a yeah.
Cool.
I think we've seen enough. Get to the cave.
You also saw scattered. Sorry, you also saw scattered, desiccated trees to the north of the river as you approach the hill, as you can see on the map there, over on the west side of the hills.
Don't like the idea of getting spotted up here. Let's get back down behind the ridge.
As you sort of step away to do so, Anton gives a little sort of noise of accomplishment and says, "Oh, it's not. I was trying to understand the. It wasn't the dialect I thought. Listen to this. At the time when the barbarians crowned their first high chieftain, Yepharon and its surrounding islands were ruled by Queen Iasmiel, while most of the other rulers in the region supported Serembar. Iasmiel merely pretended to, while secretly trying to form a profitable alliance with the enemy, the Spider King Angathal Tar. For the queen and her people worshipped the god Oroke, or rather his self-proclaimed descendant, the toad creature Manaud, whose hunger for power and other appetites were insatiable. Things did not turn out quite as the queen had expected. The Spider King, while grateful for her services, had no interest in forging alliances. Iasmiel kept her part of the bargain. Her warriors and mystics found a way into Karvosti through the underworld, stormed the cliff, and nearly slew Serembar. They did so empowered by Angathal's gift. He called it Oroke's blessing, but in reality, the scroll contained a powerful curse. One of the, I don't understand this word, the old ones? Many failed attempts to elevate humanity. Everyone present at the ritual was strengthened in body and spirit, but then their forms began to undergo a slow and unstoppable transformation. Those who returned from the attack on Karvosti were no longer human. Little by little, they turned into monstrous abominations whose mere touch would kill their victims and raise them as undead. From the top of the ziggurat, Iasmiel watched her people fall as a result of her greed. When the undead came swarming up the pyramid, she entered the crypt of her ancestor Yetha, sealed the doors behind her, and took her own life on top of his sarcophagus. In the depths of the ziggurat, the high priest Garathve, not touched by the blessing, desperate with guilt, kneeled before Manaud and begged him to hide and shield the world from the abominations he had created. The creature heard his request and answered, "There shall be a tear in the world, and in it the children of Garathve and Iasmiel shall be hidden, but at great cost. It requires sacrifice, and that sacrifice shall be Garathve's." The high. It goes on, but there's something missing.
So he was sacrificed to keep this place away from the world. That's who we need to speak to.
Well done, Anton. Just
Yeah, that's
wow.
incredible.
Yeah.
Well, if Elmendra managed to speak to him, I suppose the sacrifice wasn't what we might think.
If the sacrifice meant his death, ultimately his fate was no different to anybody else here.
Maybe.
I have to say, it does worry me a little bit about us taking the blessing of Zanatha. I know it's been a while, but doesn't sound like good things happened to people who previously took the blessing of Spider, of Oroke, and the demigods involved with him.
Zanetha claimed to be the daughter of the Spider King. Perhaps this is his name then, Angathal Tar.
Still no. Now we know what they were planning is roughly what we are planning, but no evidence on how we might find this combination. But I'm sure we'll figure it out once we get into those caves.
We find Garathve.
We must know it.
And ask nicely.
This was Josephia's plan. And as far as we can tell, may well have been Almendra's.
But does that not mean that maybe we really don't want to go to Karvosti?
It doesn't sound like going to Karvosti was what caused this, rather than taking this cursed blessing, whatever it was.
It was these people's alliance with the Spider King that doomed them. Not trespassing under Karvosti.
We had been told that story, right? We've been told that this was a curse from the witches of Karvosti for the invasion, but this is a different
take,
and
isn't it?
more detailed version of the story.
It does ring more true than the version we knew before.
Right, well, we've learned some useful information. No deals with spiders this adventure.
We should keep going. I do not like this place is tainted.
Yes, quite. Let's get to those caves.
Okay. You scale down the side of the scree leading down to the water line. As you do so, could people please give me a... let me actually... I need to do a couple of rolls of something first. No, that's fine. Okay. In that case, can anyone who feel they're in the front half of the party give me a vigilant roll, please, at +5?
For climbing down, I think I would be near the front.
Sure.
I think so. I rolled a 19, but that makes the roll.
I rolled a 17 and didn't.
I rolled a 1.
Okay. Well then, Askarai and Arendar, as you're descending down, you both kind of probably pause at once as you hear what sounds like a low, huffing, growling sound coming from somewhere just inside the crevasse below you. I should call that crevice rather than a crevasse.
This might be a stretch, but can I beast law roll to see if I have any idea what this
You
is?
can absolutely beast law this, and I'm going to give you a cunning roll for it. But you know what? I'll put a -2 on it because I don't think you might have encountered this.
I need an
enemy
8,
before.
8 or less. 14.
No, you don't know. You know what sound it reminds you of, but it seemed a little bigger and deeper and boomier than that.
What does
It
it
reminded you of a bear.
Okay. There's something bad down there, Aaron.
There's definitely something.
Doesn't sound friendly to me.
You think we could sneak around it? Or
You'll get
draw it out?
You'll get a strained sound from a little bit further back in the party. Probably accompanied by the ever-present clanging of heavy armor.
Is this our only way? Perhaps we can find another path. If we're going this way, we're going to encounter it at some point.
I mean, the noise sounded like it came from just inside the crevice, and there's no other way. If you want to go down and see what that cave is. Yeah.
So is that it's not in the cave, it's at the bottom of the cliffs. I'm just trying to understand what you mean by crevice.
The crevice is the cave. The cave is the crevice.
Got it.
Crevice is a lie. Yeah. It sounds like it's coming from just inside. And you're about 20 meters away from it. But
Can I hear it?
Up slope.
And now it's been pointed out, is it okay if I can hear it? Or do you want me
It's
to...
fine for everyone to be at least aware that a noise happened. Yeah.
Well, look, if it's breathing, at least it's not dead.
If it's breathing, it'll make it the only thing on the island that is, except ourselves. We need to see what it is. Like, it's this or an army of wraiths.
That's
I
great.
think
You
we
think
have
you
to-
can get a look?
I'll do my best. I mean, I think no matter what it seems like this is going to be the best way, almost regardless of what we find. So I suppose just prepare for some kind of fight.
Yeah, we got your back, just maybe at a slight delay.
Okay. So you just kind of approaching the cave.
I will try to approach sneakily as possible to get a visual on it.
Sure, absolutely. Well, give me a discreet roll then, please, Ascarai, at a -1.
Okay, I need a 12. That's a 6.
Okay. You creep up to near the entrance to the cave and look through and see a very distinct form of a very large bear-like creature with what looks like fairly long and shaggy yellowish white fur shuffling around the cave. For context of size, the bears that like the Byaga use, well, I can't remember the names. Bjorns? No, that's Lord of the Rings. They may be also called Byagas, I think. But basically, they are kind of like brown bears, the size of polar bears. Okay, this is the polar bear equivalent of that. So basically, what a polar bear would be to a normal bear, this is to a polar bear. Does that make sense? This is like it's like
bigger
a
than
cave
any
bear.
bear.
It's a cave
Yeah.
bear. It's like a prehistoric bear, but it looks like a polar bear, right? It's got yellowish white, kind of shaggy fur. It's pretty big. Pretty big.
I will gesture to the group like it's big. I'd probably move back to the group to discuss with the group rather than.
Sure, absolutely. You know what? Why don't you give me as you do so, why don't you give me just a standard vigilant roll as well?
I rolled a 9, so makes it.
Okay, as you move away, you think you see movement further back in the cave as well. So it may not be
Okay.
alone.
As I get back to the group, I say there is a huge bear and something, probably another one, at least one more creatures inside this cave. I would imagine more of this kind of bear. Huge.
So we have to go in. We try and choke it up in the mouth of the cave. Alindra and me, front line. Ascarai, do your best from the back. Everyone else, improvise, I suppose. Or, Degesto, if you got any... Do we want to chase them out of the cave, though, is the question.
Can I?
You want to use explosives in a cave?
Could easily bring it down.
Can I have Revelia make a beast lord roll at some point and see if she?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Give a.
It's cunning, that.
Yes.
Bless you.
Allergic to bears.
Oh. It's exciting.
She needed a 9 and got a 7. So yes, like I think she's trying to think about what she knows about cave
Sure.
bears that she's maybe
Absolutely.
read. Like,
Absolutely. She kind of leans forward to Askarai and says, "Did you say it was white furred?"
Yeah.
That's a garug. They live on lakes and in seas and on ice. They're not usually this far south. Back in,
They
I
very
used
aggressive.
to help in the library in Temple Wall. I read a book on, basically a book on big scary animals. And yes, they're aggressive.
Okay,
What
so
are they
I guess a chance of
doing?
scaring it is probably out the window.
What are they doing here, though? Like, what are they eating?
I think they eat fish and. I mean, Lake Volgoma has seals and.
It doesn't change the mathematics, though. We go through there or we go up the steps of that temple. I don't fancy our chances.
nothing in that book about how you might fight one of them.
I mean, they're just animals. There's no. Whatever bothers bears will bother them. I suppose they won't be fond of fire. DeGesto nods and says, "But again, I don't know how stable that cave is."
Yeah, let's not risk it. Come on, Alindra, we've got to earn our keep.
If you can lure them out, I'll try and set them on fire.
I think even if explosives are not viable here, if we can generate fire, that may be useful.
Your sword, Alindra?
I'll try it.
I shouldn't be relying too lightly on that.
Do you want me to draw them out of the cave and up here towards us? Do we want to set an ambush up on the cliffs? Because I'm fairly sure I can get one of these to chase me.
Might not be a
Do you
terrible
reckon?
idea.
Well, I mean, it sounds like an incredibly terrible idea, but I don't have a better one right now. Like,
How about I set up on top of that crevice with my fire tube? You bring them out of the cave, I'll fire down on them, and then we attack. Because it probably won't kill them outright. It'll make them
Sounds
very
good.
unhappy.
Sounds good and simple.
Now, I only have a limited number of charges in this fire tube. I've used one already. Just so we know.
okay.
DeGesto nods, takes one of his lengths of, what do you call it?
Fuse?
Fuse. Out from where he keeps them kind of like tied in his beard and kind of stomps very quietly off up to the top of the crevice and is sort of arranging his fire tube, pitching it down so that it's aimed at what is coming out of the cave.
So if DeGesto is going up on the cliffs, maybe
It's
it makes
not,
sense.
to be clear, he's not on the cliffs. He's just above the crevice.
Okay, he's higher.
On the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Perhaps we should have Askar out there as well. Are there any kind of bigger rocks on the screen that
No.
could be, it's just a slope?
Mhm.
Okay. Where do the rest of you go?
That's where we'll head up.
So I'm just going to lead them to a point, and once
You
we
could
get-
definitely be on either side of the crevice and not be seen until you're out of the crevice.
Yeah,
'Cause
so
we're
we're fighting at the
essentially-
bottom of the crevice, more or less, yeah?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so we're essentially staging an ambush. Okay. I'm
Sounds that way.
going to make very sure that I understand where everybody's going to be and the timing of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Lindra's just going to... Do we want to do Revenant Strike? I think not to begin with. I think Elindra is going to walk cautiously down towards the cave until she catches sight of one of these things, and is then going to make a bunch of noise.
Sure. I mean, you want to avoid being heard until you're in a position, though, right?
Yeah. So I'll get to a point when I can see when they're going to come at me, and I've got their attention. But obviously, I want as much distance between me and them if they start chasing, so I can get to the appointed spot. I don't know how fast these things go. I imagine quite fast.
Yeah, sure. Well, can you make me a discreet roll at -1, please?
I can try, yeah. I need a 9. I got a 16. I'm spending an XP on that. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, Fronile is a real XP burner.
Certainly is. Roll a 1. Much better.
Well, perfect then. You're in position. You're more or less where Askarai was, and inside you can see 2 very large furred forms, as he described, sort of huffing and shuffling around their cave.
Cool. So when I'm at, I think, the optimal position to both get their attention and also make good my escape once I've got it, I'm just going to shout, make some noise.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You've definitely got their attention. Are we bombing it away from the cave?
Yeah, if they look like they're coming, if they look like they're chasing, then yes, I will be running.
Yeah, they are turning for you and starting to kind of bound forward on huge paws, which you can't help but notice have claws on them so sharp they are cracking open the stones as they come.
This is definitely a great idea.
Could you give me a quick roll at +3, please?
+3 on account of the terror. That's a pass.
On account of the Garugs having a quick of 7.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Almost all of the modifiers I give you, if they're to do with the enemies, because I'm applying that modifier to yours.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah, no, I passed that.
Yeah, you kind of really hammer away from the cave to the point where you're almost like skidding on that scree as it kind of comes out. Are you heading like straight away down towards the waterline?
If that's where the ambush is being, I'm having trouble picturing it all, but like, yes,
okay.
to the agreed upon.
Let me describe the thing again, because otherwise, if I ask you questions, like if we're on the same level. Sure. So there's obviously the waterline.
Yep.
Up from that is a kind of stony beach, and then a short way up that is the start of a slope that leads up towards the hills. At the base of that slope is kind of a larger rocky area coming out of the scree, in which is a cave that's like almost like a crack running up the rock. On top of that rock is Degesto and Askarai, aiming downwards.
Okay, so they're essentially
your party members are on either side of the cave, not right there, but like back away from it enough to. Does that make sense?
So they don't have to get very far out of the cave to get into sight lines, and
no, not at all.
Yeah, then I guess I'm running to the waterline.
That seems like a sensible thing. Okay, who wants to? I am happy because we are doing the ambush thing. John, could you bring up the could you sort our initiative, please? The Garugs, which is Garoug, are on Vigilant 11 and Quick 7, or I should say Quick 7 and Vigilant 11, because that's the order of preference. Who Askarai has done Antom. Who wants to do Degesto today?
I think I'll take charge of Degesto.
You'll take charge of Degesto, and why not? Why not? In which case, could you roll, please? Let me just see what their defense is. I think their defense is probably awful. Yes. Basically, all I need to know. I mean, he can't miss them, and also he can't. You know what, though? I'm saying that like this fire tube has an interesting result if you hit a 20. I think that's reasonable, right? So you can't miss, but I need you to roll twice and see if you hit 20s. You're on mute, by the way.
We are safe, but I've never been as terrified in my life.
Fair enough. Okay, let me work out what this does to these lovely individuals. That's interesting. No, cat. Cease your thing. Okay. Let me just double check something, but I think that this is an interesting.
I hate basically every noise that man is making right now,
circumstance.
for the record.
I'm not surprised. Wait till you hear me tell you what it is. There we go. Flaming. Yeah.
They actually love fire. It's their favorite thing.
Their plaything.
This is one of the things where I feel like the rules break down a little at a certain point with certain things. But I'll tell you this: their armor is higher than the damage of the fire tube, which though leads you to kind of go, but it is fire. Should they not have? And like the flaming effect also can't get past their armor. So it's like I guess he's just set them on fire and they don't care.
I mean, I guess we're about to find all this out the hard way, right?
Yeah.
This is just a little preview.
Absolutely. So DeGesto lets rip with the fire tube. There's a big kind of like concussive noise and the roar of the flames. Lots of stones and pebbles start raining down that screen and kind of like tumbling over and over it. So the noise is really quite significant in the relative silence of Yefron Isle. The fire pours over the two Garugs as they come bounding out of the cave. They are certainly flaming, and bits of their fur are kind of blackening and dropping off. You see no kind of visible scorching or burning of their flesh, which leads you to believe that said flesh is probably extremely tough and resilient. Askarai, I'm happy for you to take a shot as well. Obviously, this might be leading you towards taking a particular kind of shot. I would implore you to at least consider, given you're firing at the same time as DeGesto, about whether without this knowledge you would choose the armor shot or the triple shot. Maybe you would choose the triple shot. That's fine.
I think it's I think that Askrai would know that this kind of creature probably has very thick hide, because like think of like hunger wolves, that kind of thing. I think Askrai would probably assume like it's not going to be easy to get through what skin they have. It looks like it'll be tough. I think he'd probably go with an armor shot.
Fair enough.
Armor piercing shot anyway.
That is
probably.
fair enough. Well, then give me an attack roll at a +7, please.
Okay. Just not a 20 base.
Yeah.
That's a 6. I will hunter's mark them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to shoot the one
you're firing at.
Yeah, I'm going to aim for the one that's like ahead, closer to Elinga.
Sure.
It damages it. Is there what are the rules for advantage with bows? I feel like this doesn't happen very often, but maybe there's like a height. Have we said there's a height advantage thing for bows?
No, isn't that just for firing into melees that we've said that? But isn't that
what this is?
Yeah, but that's not an advantage. Like the firing into melee is like
it's allowed.
Yeah, because you need line of sight. I mean, maybe there is something like that. It does actually remind me of something, but I let me just.
Yeah, I remember us having this conversation before, but I think the thing was that someone remembered it, but no one could find it.
Did we get anything for this being an ambush? So they presumably don't expect anybody except
all attacks against enemies standing on lower ground than the attacker, such as attacking down from a wall. This applies to both melee and ranged. Yeah, it is at advantage.
Okay, so I think that gives an extra D4. Is that right? I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a D10 and 2 D4 plus 1.
Brutal.
Bring the numbers.
That's 14 damage.
By contrast, Askarai, as one of the bears kind of comes bounding out of the cave and is still kind of roaring towards Alindra, the other one comes out not cautiously, but certainly behind the other one, and is kind of looking around to either side at the foes that are kind of like standing there ready to engage. You take careful aim, and your arrow pierces the back of the bear's skull, through its brain, through its throat, and you suspect down into the beach below. It takes a few steps forward, and then a huge gout of thick red blood pours out of its throat, kind of onto the stony shore, and starts running in great pumping arterial flows down towards the waterline itself. It collapses with a strained huffing, wheezing noise. It's not dead yet, but it will be dead in 10 seconds or so.
Okay.
And that's why ignoring armor is literally the most potent thing in this game.
It's not bad.
Okay. Elindra.
Okay, so what I'm hoping is that there is enough distance between me and the bear that we're not immediately in melee combat.
No, you outran it, so like you'd have to run up to it to engage it. It could definitely reach you in your turn if you didn't.
And I can't stop it doing that. I have nowhere to run, but I'm not going to engage it. I'm going to spend the turn turning around, screaming, and activating Revenant Strike.
Okay.
Which gives me 1d4 temporary corruption.
Mm-hmm.
4, because of course.
And don't forget the one you already have.
I did not forget that. I'm not yet over my corruption threshold, but we're now playing with danger.
Sure, absolutely.
So yeah, the thinking is just, big flaming sword, like see if that is the sort of thing that might cause the bear to slow, to reassess, to generally make itself a more distracted target for everybody else.
I mean, anything's possible, but it is already on fire.
Okay, and it's not at all bothered by that.
Nope.
Fantastic. Well, I will mutter a silent prayer and wait for it to come barreling into me.
Sure. What is Revelia doing?
So where's Revelia going to be? Essentially just behind.
Stood over to one side or another.
She is absolutely charging and engaging. I assume she's within a movement. I assume we're in a
yeah.
Considering the size of the bear, like a fairly
everyone is within a movement. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so she's going to roll to attack. Is there a modifier?
Yeah, +7.
Sweet. That's a 12, which is a pass. So she's doing D10 damage with her sword.
Let's see how nasty this armor is.
1.
It's better than 1. So, yeah, Revelia dashes forward, kind of clashing her blade against her shield to try and get the thing's attention a bit away from you, and slashes at it. And she does hit it. Absolutely nothing happens. Her sword just kind of like... Her sword doesn't even make it to the flesh. It just runs along the slightly smouldering fur.
There's a bit of me that thinks XP reroll for the damage, but I don't think she's getting through this armor anyway.
Let me advise you not to bother.
Okay. Cool. That's Revelia.
Farron. Standard Farron tactics of staying away.
No, I mean, I think I'll go in.
Okay.
I'll go in. Why not?
Farron gets an attack at +7, please.
I forgot to get his sheet up. That's a miss, amazingly. He rolled a 19, which is the one of 2 options that can miss.
Well then, Farron scampers up behind the creature and snaps at its heels, but doesn't really do anything else. Arindar.
Aaron will also hopefully more effectively try and attack.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an attack. That's a +7 then, please.
That is a hit. And it's outnumbered, so that's with advantage.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
now 3 of us attacking. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. I rolled a 1 on my d12, so that's only 3 damage.
Yeah. Your sword gets tangled in the fur and doesn't really even remotely penetrate. No. So there we go. Steo.
There seems to be a bit of a crowd forming around this creature, and that's probably not the best, but I'm also probably the only one left in the lineup who's a chance of damaging it, so I think I'm going to go in.
Okay. Well, for a start, get your long attack. You can roll a +7.
That is a success, or a success, if you will.
I will not.
That's not. Oh, sorry. There's a D4 as well, so that's 9 + 4. 12 in total.
12 in total. So 12 from that single attack, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You plunge your spear forward. You feel it kind of slamming into the flesh underneath the fur, and then, like, with a sharp heave, you push enough to penetrate it. You push your spear through into the flank of the creature, relatively deep, and draw it out again, soaked in blood. You've dealt it a bit of a wound. It's definitely not a kind of a grievous mortal one, but it's bleeding, and not insignificantly. Are you keeping it at long range, or are you actually stepping in and engaging?
I think Steele's kind of cognizant of the tactical situation here and is going to use his talent to disengage.
Okay, fair enough. What is Father Anton doing, Askarai?
Does he have? There's also the like. I don't think he's going to bother attacking it. I would say, is it clear who this creature is charging at? Is it going for Alindra? Is it not clear at this moment?
I mean, it charged towards Alindra, but who knows what it's doing now. Also, John said in the chat, wasn't that just his free attack? Yeah, but still, if the long attack is what prevents engagement.
Yeah, so my long attack
like
succeeded,
if he stepped
which allowed
in
me
and
to
attacked,
disengage.
he would no longer be able to force it to disengage.
Got it.
I think Anton probably is going to cast Blessed Shield and then give it to Alindra.
Nice. Sure. And that is, I believe, did we determine last time that Anton's casting gives him just 1 temporary corruption? That's right.
Yeah.
It doesn't roll a die. Yeah. Okay, then go ahead and do that and roll cunning to see if it triggers.
Okay. Is it cunning
not
or
cunning?
resolute?
It's resolute. It's absolutely resolute.
You roll a 6, so it does trigger. And I think it automatically goes on himself, and then he picks one other person, and the person will be Alindra as seemingly the most likely to get charged by this creature.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, it is now the turn of the Garug. So, there's a number of things that the Garug can do. And I'm going to say it is going to be... Ooh. Okay, well, that's a successful thing of that. So I'm going to say it's going to try to... Oh, I've frozen.
Nice. I can hear you.
Yeah. Oh, dear. I am here, I assure you. Let me.
Yeah, at least it's a flattering angle.
Yeah, it's a sort of digital glitch artwork.
It's a bit of a found footage look.
Oh, hello. Okay.
Mm.
Give me 1 second. I'll just do the ancient magical ritual.
No, it's totally gone. Amazing.
Ancient
Free
magical
XP for
ritual.
everyone.
Oh no.
Ancient
He,
magical ritual.
His magic was too powerful and he got pulled into paradox.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we
Hey.
go.
There we go. Okay. Let me think about this. Because they've got some options here. Oh god.
You look like somebody that has just been faced with like a restaurant menu where everything is so delicious.
Sure. Yeah.
Should I kill all of them or just one of them?
Okay. What it's going to do is it's going to turn and kind of rear up on its hind legs and roar with sort of its deep, dark eyes fixed on Steo. And Steo, could you give me a resolute roll at a -5, please?
Don't fancy my chances, friends. Resolute is 10. 5s are under. 7 is not less than 5.
Okay, you are on your next turn. You are not going to attack it. You're basic.
So
You can't not do anything, but you're cowed from attacking this thing on your next turn. And I'm going to rule that includes your long engagement. I don't think that's
so I would like to object softly. I have steadfast at adept, which means I can take a second chance to escape from resolute or quick rolls from an impediment that prevents me from acting.
Do it.
15 XP well spent. No.
Could have come through though. Could have come through. But yeah, you don't have to like run away or anything. You don't have to like not do anything, but you can't step, you can't engage the creature. And that's a free action that it has.
Great.
And then it is going to, I mean, the others didn't do any damage to it, and Alindra was the first point of its ire. And he also says it targets the largest of its enemies, and that's Steo and Alindra, but it's it is going to go for Alindra.
Sure. I get a free attack on engagement.
You do get a free attack on engagement. I don't think it leaves the engagement of the others either. I think it's big enough that you don't get a free attack for it disengage. It's still engaged with everyone. It only has to take a couple of paces forwards to kind of like swipe for Alindra. So,
Sure.
But go ahead and take your free attack at a +7.
+7. Yep, that's a pass. Now let me see. Damage is going to be D12 plus 2D4. Oh my gosh, 3.
Oh,
I'm sorry, I'm taking a reroll. That's ridiculous.
So what's the errata here? You only get to reroll one of those dice.
I presume it's redo the roll, isn't it?
This came up a couple of sessions ago, and I actually don't remember us ever re-rolling damage before.
Oh, okay.
Are we just? I thought it was. I think the only thing we said was death rolls, technically. I think, but
I thought so. I'm trying to see what's actually. Any standard roll can be re-rolled once in exchange for a player paying 1 XP. I would say a damage roll is a standard roll.
Well, I'd say a standard roll is a standard roll.
Like a skill roll.
Yeah.
Well, okay, it's up to you.
Standard roll. I mean, what do other people think? Like, it felt a bit off for me last time when we re-rolled damage.
I think
a standard roll is a standard roll to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we are allowing it at all, I'd say you're allowed to pick one of the dice. But honestly, if it says standard roll, then that implies the D20 ability check rather than.
That is how I would read it. But...
Then Alindra does 3 damage.
the reroll for experience section lists a critical attack or an important damage roll or the like. So it does include damage rolls as part of it.
And that wording implies the whole roll rather than one dice of the roll. So
Yeah, I
But
think the one dice thing
it is also, because it is an optional rule, I think it is supposed to be implemented the way the group is most comfortable with it. So if the group aren't comfortable with having damage rolls,
I guess the question ultimately is like, when we originally set it, did I phrase it as standard rolls because that's what we'd agreed, or did I just put standard rolls? Let me just find phrasing there and look at the phrasing. This is fascinating stuff for everyone else. Any standard roll can be. See, I'm interested in where I've picked up the word standard there.
let me double check the errata to see whether.
I don't think it'll.
There's nothing that uses that phrase.
It's an option. It's an optional rule. So
make a call, Matt. Happy to go with whatever.
Well, I think the fact that it says an important damage. I think the fact that the rules and the suggested optional rules in the book, like say a damage roll, means it's a damage roll.
So I can reroll.
Yeah.
All right.
I
certainly think.
How would people think about Chris's suggestion that it's only ever one die that gets rerolled?
That's a nice compromise position from where I'm sat.
I don't think Stephen's happy with that.
No, I think it's the whole roll, but I'm like happy to submit to like whatever the group says. In the interest of like continuing the stream.
Sure. What's your take on it, John?
I have no strong opinion, which is a problem in general and in this circumstance.
Okay.
I'm happy with the compromise, but it's
let's go with the rules as written for this, and we can always discuss it later. So re-roll your fistful of die. It's dices.
After all of that, we revise it from a 3 to a mighty 8. So
okay, well, let me tell you, Stephen, that was just enough to not damage the Garug. For all
Niall claims another XP.
You know what? Out in the commentary, tell us what you think about that, because I know we've had someone mention. God, was this was after the stream last week, right? Was it, where we were talking about how someone was saying how the rolls for XP is kind of OP, and we had that kind of discussion. But it almost like, I think it's when it's like a handful of dice. I definitely start to edge towards that, even though obviously in this circumstance it hasn't worked out particularly. But like,
naturally, I'm going to interpret it in whatever would have been most favorable to me. But I kind of think a roll is like, anyway,
an objective sense of the fairness and balance of the rules without what just applies to you in that moment.
Thoughts in the chat?
Yeah, thoughts in the chat. What do people think out there? Engagement. That's what we do here at Telling Tales. Anyway, didn't despite the things, it didn't work out. Your sword clashes into the creature's hide to no seeming effect, and it is now engaged with you. So if you could please,
not that kind of engagement.
Not that kind of engagement. If you could please roll defense at a -5.
I've lost my character sheet, but that is not Alindra. Defense -5. That means I'm going to need an 8. I, in fact, roll a 1.
Nice.
Perfect defense.
Another free attack, is that?
Yeah. You immediately receive a free attack before their second attack.
Oh, great. Okay, let's do that. That is a pass on the hit. Damage this time is 6.
Yeah.
I'm not spending an XP. I've had enough.
Sure. I mean, as discussed before, that's not enough. Clearly,
No.
no. Could you make another defense roll at -5, please?
Yeah, that's it. I need an 8, and I get a 11.
You look like you're about to spend another XP.
Should we see how hard it hits?
We can fail some rolls, folks.
Yeah. Let's see how hard it hits.
You're going to regret that, but let's find out.
I mean, this is only its second hit, so it's probably lower than the first. Well, give me an armor roll then.
Sure. Armor is a D8. 4.
Okay. What's your pain threshold?
8.
Okay. So the first of the Garugs kind of like the first thing it does is try and bite you. It lurches forwards and you dodge back, and you feel like the wash of cold water up the back of your calves as you step back into the water and kind of try and swipe out again. Your blade clatters into its head but doesn't seem to do anything. And as it comes back, it kind of like rears back but swipes out as it does so. And it's very fast for its size. You feel an impact along the side of you and like several lines of pain raking across your chest. And as you stagger back, you see that the remains of your Templar tabard, it's gone. It's shredded. And through your, what is it, like scale mail you wear or something like that, or chain?
I think it's not specified, but yeah, I'd imagined kind of chain.
It's just medium armor, right?
It's medium, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like a mix of scale and chain. And as you kind of step back, you see that there are two like rents torn in the chainmail, and you are bleeding underneath it. It's torn your flesh, but not through to like your, more valuable bits.
Yeah.
And take 6 toughness, please.
Sure thing.
And let me tell you, you're glad, or you should be glad, that you dodged the first one, not the second one. Because like many double attacks, the first one is quite a lot more than the second one.
It's like a 1-2 kind of.
De Gesto is kind of hefting his fire tube and kind of desperately trying to shuffle down the scree towards the melee. Malamai, who is spelt wrong for shame. It's Malomai, so the second A is an O. He is going to, he sees the gathering of people. He was down below with everyone, but has now seen the gathering of people, and he's going to spend his turn ascending the scree to stand along Askarai with his bow. Because I haven't done stats for him yet because I'm lazy. So if I can just keep him running around, then I don't have to think about it. Askarai, come on, one-shot this thing and get this over with.
Well, if you insist, Matt, I suppose. I mean, I don't think Askarai has any other. Why would he do anything other than an armor-piercing shot on this?
Why indeed? No, I agree. Thoroughly.
So he's going to try it again. What? It's a plus lots? Plus
7.
3?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a 7. And the damage again is like a D10 plus 2 plus 2d4 from advantage and hunter's mark. So a lot. Well, maybe a lot.
Well, Stephen thought it was a lot. You could roll like shit. Keep this going.
Nope. I've rolled a 15.
Cannon.
Yeah, Alindra, you can see as the kind of creature roars back, it kind of like raises its paw to try for another swipe at you, and a familiarly fletched arrow appears in its eye, and it stays kind of on its back legs, reeling for a second before toppling over to the side, kind of half in the water in front of you and kind of probably rolling kind of towards you. You probably have to kind of try and wade out a bit to avoid being like half crushed by the thing.
I'm going to sort of push it as it comes past, like, yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I did that.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely didn't do that, but we'll put the boot in because it feels good.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, they're both dead.
Everyone okay?
Okay. You're not. Come over here.
This is going to take some repairing.
Would it offend you if I used it to bind the wounds in the short term?
Yes. I guess I've got to find a new tabard from somewhere. So we might as well use this one to stop me bleeding out.
Patched by his own tabard, or her own tabard, I am going to attempt to do a medicus roll with a. I've done it now.
Well, the good news is they're now out of fashion, so they might be easier to find surplus. Or maybe harder.
Maybe I just need a different tabard.
So I have successfully bound you up. I will tell you how much in just a second. That's 1d8. That's 7. Good job, Steo.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Clearly the damage was mostly kind of superficial, and it was just basically some tears in your skin that bled quite heavily.
Yep.
Sore though.
And I'm going to need an armorer and a tailor. So.
You need to get into plate.
You said that
Give
like
up
it's
the-
vinyl.
Armor hipster.
You need to give up this quiet sneaking around life, Alindra. Join me in the clanky ranks.
Yeah. Get rid of this mainstream chainmail.
Clanky ranks. Yeah.
After
Cave
all
then?
this, I bet the cave is going to be just a shallow gouge in the rock, and this was all just a.
Someone has suggested this, and I think it's probably worth a roll. Ascarai, can you give me a roll of cunning at? I'm going to apply a +3 on it, -3 rather.
Okay. I think I need a 9. In that case, no, that's a 1.
Okay. The very fact, Ascarai, that you did not recognize these large, very furry creatures means that they're quite rare. They are covered head to toe in a copious amount of very thick, luxurious looking, unusually colored fur, which would probably sell exceptionally well in somewhere like Thistlehold.
Okay.
That's all.
That's where we'll move over and probably get the party involved in, like, let's see if we can get some hide of these creatures.
Sure.
Maybe
absolutely.
some teeth.
Why not? Absolutely. Everyone gain 1 temporary corruption, please.
Yay.
I guess
I should emphasize not from the act of skinning bears.
I feel like that could also corrupt you a little bit.
just to
Then
clarify,
just-
we have now left the fight scene, right?
Yeah. You can take away your Revenant Strike corruption, absolutely.
Well,
And
'cause
now I know what your corruption threshold is.
this scene may have gone very differently otherwise.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It should be stated, by the way, if you just go over your normal corruption threshold, you gain like a sort of, are they called stigmata? Or something similar to
Stigma.
that? Yeah. Stigma. You gain a stigma of some visible sign of corruption. It's only when you go over double your corruption threshold that you real bad shit happens.
Well,
Yeah.
when you go over your corruption threshold the first time, you also gain, I think it's 1d4 of permanent corruption.
Permanent corruption. Yeah.
But only for the first time.
Yeah.
I think.
And just because I'm feeling smug about it, I will not be taking that 1 temporary corruption because I don't take environmental corruptions.
But yeah, all of you feel like, again, more time has passed on Yeferon. The island is getting its claws deeper into you. So with that in mind, are we skinning the Garug, which isn't a euphemism?
Sure.
I was going to take some teeth because it seemed faster. But I wasn't sure if we'd be able to carry the pelts. They're fairly
You certainly
large.
can't carry all the pelts, no, or
No.
they would have to be expertly cut and like split
Yeah,
between you to carry all.
I guess it's a case of just like you kind of take off as much as we think we can handle and kind of roll it up. And
Yeah.
I'm going
And
to take a
it's
bounce.
Maybe
It'll still be soppy and bloody as well until
Yeah,
you
yeah.
get somewhere where you can like treat and dry it.
I would think that if we return, which we hopefully will, it will be this way. Maybe we just drag them into the caves and take the pelts on the way back.
I don't know if we can move them.
I mean, one of them
Look,
is
there's-
dead on. One of them is dead on the beach. The other one is like half in the water. So the one that's on the beach, you could, it's probably not going to.
There's
Unless there
nothing
are other-
around here to
Unless
eat
there's
them.
scavengers around, you don't know. But
There's
Okay.
nothing around here to eat them. This island is dead. We should make haste and claim our trophies on the way back.
Okay,
No,
we
we
plan
do.
to be coming back this way in a matter of hours at the most, right?
Let's take some teeth, as Aaron says. That's quick and easy. And then if we have
Okay.
time on the way back, we can try and get some help.
sure, absolutely. Who is taking a tooth?
I am.
Yep.
How big are these
Anyone-
things?
Like the tooth will be, oh god, like I don't know, like that.
Oh, okay, so not that
Maybe.
huge then.
No, I mean, it's pretty big. It's dagger sized.
Bigger than my
Um,
teeth.
Yeah, bigger than my teeth. Yeah, if you're taking it, everyone who's taking it roll cunning, please. And if you fail, it doesn't mean you don't get it. It just means you get a higher quality one if you do. That's my on-the-spot judgment.
Failed.
I rolled a 1.
Anyone who succeeds, just note that they have good quality Garug tooth rather than Garug tooth.
Lindra and Revelia both failed for the record.
I am not
Quite.
taking a tooth because Steo cannot handle the tooth. This is why I get the big money.
You get money? So, we're making our way into the cave. Is that the idea?
Yes.
Bust out some torches, I think, just in anticipation that it's not going to be light in here.
Absolutely. As you do sort of enter into the cave, all of you hear what sounds like a number of sort of strident animal yowling noises a little way into the cave ahead of you. They do not sound to be large creatures.
Here we go.
And Tom, you take the torch. Lindra, I'll go in front. You've taken your knocks for today.
Okay, you stumble a little further into stride a little further into the cave around a kind of like slight opening, and you see over at the side what appears to be a kind of number of kind of matted bits of vegetation, mostly kind of like seaweed and lakeweed, I suppose, and it's like kind of kelp-like plants. And in the middle of this are what seem to be 6 Garug cubs, each maybe the size of a medium-sized dog. They are kind of yowling and wailing at you somewhat aggressively, but aren't leaving this little nest, and you don't have to go into the further passage behind. You don't need to go
That's
past them.
absolutely heartbreaking.
It's Davakar.
It's in the book. It's in the book. I didn't do this for emotion.
Tell that to the John. Right, I
I'll
suppose
tell
we'll
you
try
what.
and
In the book, it says how much their furs are worth.
Oh my God, Free League.
Weirdly, it doesn't say how much the adults are worth. Naturally, the babies are the ones you'll kill.
Is the baby fur like softer?
Oh yeah, the fur looks great.
Do not.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how cute are these baby polar bears?
They're not as cute as actual baby polar bears for certain. Garug
Yeah.
have a bigger, heftier, like let's say more cave bear look to them.
Do they look like they'll be able to survive without their parents?
Give me a cunning roll.
And then just about to mercy kill a whole
I got a 1.
nest of Garrick.
The fact that you came in here and they didn't come for you means no.
Noted.
Come on, we got to get a move on if they're not going to attack us. We got business.
Okay. Elindra caches that location away for later. You at the back of this crevice. I like how the chat has gone a completely different way. Also, someone has corrected us on the beast law thing of trophies, but we'll address that later. Basically, at the back of the cave, there is what appears to be a large crack in the rock that disappears off to the north.
That's our number.
Okay. So we are heading off down there. There is not a huge amount of room initially, but the crack opens up within, say, 20 meters or so until you can comfortably walk about 3 abreast. Down it, it does not appear to be human-made or any other, sapient species made. It is just a kind of natural crack in the rock. It is very dark. It is quite cold, and it is very quiet. As you make your way forwards, are any of you interacting or talking or taking the opportunity to do anything, or are we just heading down this quite spooky crack silently and quickly?
I think as things as it plans out that this is going to be us for a while, I think I'll give Malamai a little bit of a pep talk. In Steele's traditional fashion, it's like, Malamai, it doesn't really matter how many times you've come into the forest and come out alive. What really counts is how many times you've gone under the forest and come out alive.
Right. Is that a thing that happens a lot?
Only if you're unlucky, like we are.
I don't think we're technically under the forest, are we?
I don't
Master
know.
Theo?
I suppose it's up to whatever profane gods run this place.
Right.
Courage.
So, twice through the course of being on Yefron, I've asked someone to roll a d10. Do we remember the last time? Do you remember who made the rolls?
I have a funny feeling it was me, wasn't
I think
it?
Chris did one of them. Did anyone else make another one? Or if Chris is the only person we can remember, that's fine. Well, you know what? Let's have someone else respond to one now. John, could you roll a d10 for me, please, if you would?
Completely neutral 5.
A completely neutral 5. In that case, okay. Did I change that because there were? How many race were there last time they attacked you? There were 8. So where did I get that from? Interesting. No, that's fine. Okay. Who do we think is at the front?
Probably between me and Askrai.
Yeah.
You know what, Steve? You made a comment about being at the front, so I'm going to take you as being at the front. On the edge of the torchlight in front of you, there is a flickering shadow, which, as your light reaches it, starts to wail and keen in an unpleasant tone. It is one of the wraiths you encountered above, but it does only seem to be one of them. But it is smack bang in the tunnel ahead of you, and doesn't seem to be, if anything, is kind of turning to kind of come towards you.
Okay, I'll just kind of almost pikeman-like in return to form, because all my allies are behind me and the enemy's in front of me, so I kind of know what to do.
Sure, absolutely. Let's not go into initiative just yet, although maybe a little bit. Do you remember where the wraiths came in the order? Did they come before or after Steo, John?
They came just before. I've
Just
still got
before
the
Steo.
banner.
Okay, then. Well, in that case, I'm going to say that as you step forward, as it comes for you, Steo, it's going to. But you'll get your long attack as it engages you anyway. So take your long attack first, please, Steo, against it, and it's going to be at a just flat.
Okay. There we go. That's a 7. That'll do.
Okay. And then give me a damage roll, please.
The damage is a mighty 3.
A mighty 3, which is reduced still further by the creature's insubstantial form. Okay, then, Steo, why don't you give me a defense roll, a -3, please?
Well, unless there's some rule for it being less corporeal, I think I will disengage it, force it back somehow, if that's even possible.
Feel weird, doesn't it? But it's in the
It does
rules,
a bit. I'm
so.
okay with waiving it for incorporeal enemies.
Like, I don't know about incorporeal. I certainly feel in this situation, like all your allies are like behind. It seems like, how would this happen in this circumstance?
Yeah. Let's waive it.
Okay.
So
if you're happy with
armor, is it?
No, definitely not armor. It's a defense roll at -3. Yeah, you make it.
Success.
It comes towards you and reaches out for you, and you kind of dodge backwards, and the kind of semi-translucent shadowy arm like rakes just in front of your face, and you feel like a wash of kind of cold over you from the proximity of the thing, and then you get your attack.
Get my actual attack. Okay, that is a success on the roll, and that's 7 damage this time, which is
better.
Better. Still not great though.
Absolutely. Again, you kind of step back and thrust through it. You feel that your attack has done something, but it's impossible to kind of really visually register, especially here where the light from the torch is making it's almost like, you know, slightly kaleidoscopic, trying to even see the thing in the flickering of the light and the flickering at the edges of the shadowy stuff. Ascarai, you're next in line. And basically, the first you heard about this was some grunts from Steo and him kind of stepping back, and the like towards you, the torchlight kind of dancing around a bit. And now you can see this dark shape in front of Steo. What are you going to do?
I think Ascarai can't safely shoot at this, so he's going to move in and try and stab it with his sword.
Sounds good. Give me an attack roll with a flank. So it's a +2, please.
Okay, just makes it on a 13, and the damage is a D8 plus a D4. A grand total of 3.
Grand total of 3. Sure. But also, let me roll something here. Yes. So, you step in, Ascarai, and kind of rake your sword down the side of where it maybe is, and part of it seems to shear off and dissipate. It does the same thing as the ones above did, kind of turns away and tries to kind of like almost half sink into the ground and flow away across the rock of the tunnel. Are either of you going to try for a parting shot?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah.
Go for it. Both rolled at an advantage, so at +2. Give me your damage rolls.
4 damage.
And Ascarai?
8 damage.
Okay, yeah. Between the two of you thrusting at this kind of coagulating puddle of shadow, it seems to splinter apart and kind of like into drifts that float off in the flickering torchlight. Nearer the back of the group, you hear a voice say, "Why have we stopped?"
Trouble sorted now.
Right. Bit worrying to find one down here. Maybe a guard, a sentry. I'm not sure if they even have that kind of intelligence.
I prefer the dead when they're underground. Let's keep going.
All right. You carry on moving forwards. before long, you get the distinct sense that the tunnel is moving gently upwards. And after about, that's as the crow flies. I'd say after about sort of probably half an hour or so of kind of trudging forward, because I imagine you're going somewhat cautiously, right? You can't really see very well down here, and who knows what's in the next step. You see ahead of you kind of a difference in the way the light is coming out from your torches that would seem to indicate that like there's an opening of some kind leading out into somewhere else.
Okay. Thoughts?
You need to be cautious.
Go through. Can I try witch sight on the opening?
Yeah, sure.
Like a vibe check.
You don't. Does this cause you corruption?
Yes, it's 1 point of temporary corruption,
which will almost immediately go away.
Which will almost immediately go away, and it's a vigilant modified by discreet.
Okay, well, there's no discreet here. I'm going to say that the discreet in preventing being able to see the kind of auras of things on Yepheron Isle gives you +5.
Wow. Okay. Well, I rolled a 1, so that's a pass.
Okay.
A very rare, actually functioning witch sight.
Sure. You perceive not, and this is, you're not getting the sense that this is so much the tunnel you're in or what it's heading to, but Yepheron in general. Everything around you seems to sort of vibrate slower and come to a kind of dead stop. For a moment, you almost feel like you and your friends have kind of like frozen in their motion. And somewhere nearby, it's kind of halfway between feeling it and seeing it. There is a great swollen presence somewhere close to you. Somewhere further ahead, maybe. It is old and dark and a kind of sense of a corpulent brownish, greenish black.
Okay.
So that's all you got. And that's because you got the 1.
Thanks. I will. Yeah. There is something up ahead. It's old. It's dark. It's bloated. It's not far from here.
But in this opening, or
this is the way to whatever that is.
The old priest, perhaps.
I'm starting to see where the Templars kicked you out.
It's just a thing that happens sometimes.
Maybe you should talk to a witch about that.
Maybe I should.
You sounded like one of them. Shall we go?
Yeah.
Okay. The crack that you're in opens out into a different tunnel. It's a tunnel that seems to be moving kind of roughly north to south, based on your kind of mental thing of where you've gone. It is definitely human-made. The bottom of it is still paved, and the sides of it are kind of shored up with stone, kind of not freestanding columns, but like stone pillars that are like against the walls. Can everyone give me rolls of a certain kind, which I will reveal right yeah, just a vigilant roll is fine.
Yep.
Elindra pass. Revelia got a 1.
Okay. Elindra, Revelia, and Ascarai, then, there are what look like fresh footsteps. Quite numerous footprints, actually, leading both ways along the dust and debris on the floor of this tunnel.
I'll sort of hold up a hand to the others and point this out without really saying anything.
Yeah, and probably follow the footsteps as close as we can if it's a wider opening.
Revelia kind of like leans in and says, Garaya, these are Ambrian shoes, are they not? You don't know why you didn't see it. She's right.
Yeah, you're right, really. I think could be the same as we saw before, but certainly I think people who have been here recently and know the way to find this place. Maybe the people who made the map.
Well, we know Elmendra came this way, and we know that other people have tried. Maybe other people got this far.
You certainly think that if you want to head in the direction of the ziggurat, well, you know what? Can everyone give me a cunning roll? That seems like a reasonable roll to make at this point.
Yep.
Okay, anyone that succeeded, you're pretty sure that you are now slightly north of the ziggurat. So you should turn right, ergo south, if you want to head towards the ziggurat, or presumably underneath the ziggurat.
Do these footprints head south, or do they head a different
They
direction?
head in both directions.
Okay. I think we should head south.
And you know what? Give me a cunning roll at a. I think it's quite difficult at a -5. No,
Nope.
Never mind. Never mind. We heading south?
Yep.
Okay. So before very long at all, maybe about 20 meters or so, the tunnel you're in, the human-made tunnel, turns slightly. And at the end of it is a massive double gate made from black, red brindled granite. It is completely bare, apart from to the right of the door, or on the right half of the door, there are 16 stone plates, each about the size of a person's palm, and carved with Symbarian symbols. They look like this. Anton steps in a bit closer and says, some kind of key or code? Ideas?
We came here to get this combination, not be confronted by it. Prius's tits.
And on that, I think we will end the stream there, folks. Thank you very much for playing, or indeed for watching and enjoying. If you've got any comments or questions, sling them into the chat and we will address them before the stream ends. In the meantime, let's get the old promo out of the way. If you check down below, there's a bunch of links to Twitch and to YouTube. You're watching on one of those sites, please check us out on the other one. There are also links to Patreon, to Discord, and to social media. If those are your kind of things, please get involved with those. We currently run a few ongoing campaigns, although many of them are on pause at the moment. Mondays is usually Vason. That will return either this Monday or the Monday after. Wednesdays is Symbaroum. That's this. I think it's quite likely we're off next week. Just so you know, that's the TBC, but I think that's quite likely. On Thursdays, we have various streams running now and then. The next one is going to be on the 21st, when Wicked Ones will start. And then we'll conclude Big Wet somewhere around October time as well. There, we've also got monthly one-shots. The one shot for September is probably going to be another installment of Johnny's Space Age Call of Cthulhu stuff. If you want to watch the rest of that, it's all on YouTube. We haven't got a date for that yet. that isn't like 100%, but keep tuned into our events on our Discord or our schedule on Twitch, and you will find out. John, comments or questions, please. Ascar and Anton, famous canoodlers. Don't pick food.
I hate it, but I love it.
Nice. A whitish bear on a weird island. This came almost exactly the same time that John in private chat said that we were in Lost. So there we go.
And I said that there was an airship filled with drugs somewhere.
But unlike Lost, I will land this campaign.
Yeah.
You won't quit,
Cursed
get fired 4 years in and then replace with someone who didn't.
The last bit of it is written by the same people who wrote the start of it. It won't be as bad. And just to make it clear, my stance perfectly clear, the first 4 seasons of Lost are some of the best television I've ever seen. The last 2 seasons of Lost are some of the worst television I've ever seen. So there.
For any younger viewers around, Lost is like Game of Thrones, but for the older generation.
It's like Game of Thrones, but with sun lotion instead of dirt. Sam, DeGesto set them on fire. They do sets them on fire. They do double damage. Yeah, you're being burned by being hit by them. It is odd though the way some stuff. Like I almost feel like armor should like only half protect against fire or something. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah,
I
I
feel
feel
like
acid
and
logically, I feel like armor would not help against fire at all. Like, but it's hard to. Then I guess some weapons just become overpowered if that's the case. It's hard.
I don't know. I feel it depends because the reason why it's armor is because they've got tough hide, right? So I suppose it does make sense in that they've got big layers of like flesh and fat that like that can take a roasting in a way that we wouldn't. Like I do think armor does. Like if I was about to be flamethrowered by DeGesto's primitive flamethrower weapon, I would much rather be in plate armor than not have plate armor. Like I think. Because then all the only parts of me that are getting scorched are like there, right? Or like I think it would help. But
yeah,
like,
you might get burned where you were in contact with the armor.
Yeah,
by the heat of the armor.
Maybe, but I think like I think that's the case if you were like thrown into fire or something, right? But this thing just kind of goes woof, and then it's kind of done, right? It's not like a flamethrower. Yeah. So I think like it would just wash over you. It would just be like passing an armored arm through a fire, which would not heat up enough that it would hurt you.
I feel like it's something that's very hard to like account for in the same way you account for damage, because there's also like they have fur, which would obviously make it worse because you could just catch on fire. But like you say, they have a thick hide, which would probably be better than armor in some ways, like even better than like it's just a very hard type of damage.
They're like surface burns, right? They'd be surface burn, but it wouldn't really do much damage. Like, sorry, can we skip back to Steve's one?
Yeah, I'm with Steve on this one. I think the initial damage may be armor, but actually, if you're being cooked,
then absolutely, armor would not help. But like, if it's just a brief flame washing over you, which is DeGesto's attack, then I think armor protecting does make sense. As you say, maybe we say that because they're like aquatic, right? Like they have wet fur and it doesn't really catch fire.
I just think to account for it, the rule book would have to be like so much more annoying and in depth than it is. And I appreciate that it's not. I would rather it's not, and that we just have to deal with these like random situations that don't make quite sense. But like,
it's just weird because in my head it was like, oh, they'll set up this ambush, and then I realized after I checked their armor, I was like, there's literally no way DeGesto can damage them.
I think,
but you were to know that, and neither was he. So
I think narrative.
We had Ascarai.
I think narratively, though, it's very satisfying to come up against one of those enemies where they are on fire and completely on face for Balrogian, like emerging from the fire and rounding upon their enemies. I think it's good storytelling.
Yeah, and as we've had other comments there, chicken in the cage. If it's brief, you can handle it. You learn that being a firefighter. Absolutely, yeah. And 42 said fur doesn't burn. Yeah, a lot of fur because it's matted and it's got all kinds of other stuff in it, right? And it might be wet and it might be wool doesn't burn very well. Yeah, some things are naturally flame retardant. I'm willing to believe that this big old cave bear comes under that category. At least, like, if you threw it in a fucking fire pit, yeah, it would burn to death. But like Degesto's glorified fireworks.
It's also Steve's point about wool is a very good one, because wool that you craft with, for example, has usually been treated and scoured, and it does actually combust. It doesn't set on fire, but it does combust, which is the main way to tell if you have a fiber, whether it's artificial or natural. You set it on fire and see what it does, which can cause problems. But wool straight off the animal usually has like a layer of oil over it, which could be an amount of flame retardant as well, because it'll stop the fire from penetrating.
Yeah.
Steve does also raise a good point.
The smell will be awful, of course. Yeah. Moving on. Wet bears don't burn. Probably don't know. Next. That could make a great James Bond title. Who would do the song for Wet Bears Don't Burn?
I'll do it if anyone else wants to.
I mean, to be fair, that sounds like a Mastodon song to me, but I can't imagine them doing a James Bond song.
In my head, it's going to the tune of Big Girls Don't Cry. Wet bears don't burn.
In my head, it's to the tune of Cry Little Sister by Jerry McCann from the Lost Boys soundtrack, but I couldn't even begin to tell you why. Next, let the cat run Anton. Baron rolls for Anton. Seems like a good idea.
I think he meant the in-person cat.
Oh,
we want him to be part of the stream.
Just get it to push some dice off the table.
He very quickly lost interest. And gained a lot more interest in going to sleep. Next. Painful DM, touched by a wraith, my fave too. We should start a Reddit thread. Yeah. I feel like some people in chat did get the reference there.
There was also amazement. I don't think I saved it, but an amazement from Don't Kick Food that series,
the one I'm referencing,
the one we're referencing, went for 9 seasons.
We're talking about it like it's there was a series called Touched by an Angel. I honestly never saw it. But I imagine it was shit. As most television was in the 90s. As most television has always been and will always be. In case it sounds like I'm doing my beloved 90s down. 0 on 120. If they defeat these bears, then I hope they'll try and get some trophies from them this time. They probably need the cash for it. Hey, I saw it. And I made sure that cunning roll got made, and then clarified the rule as well. Can we get Zeron's clarification? I believe you need beast law in order to get the trophies in good quality. Otherwise, you either get them in bad quality or not at all if you fail the check. I think both the Monster Codex and the
Player's Handbook.
Player's Handbook. Thank you. Mentions it. Yeah, you are probably absolutely right. So basically, what it'll mean if we shift it, we'll double check the rule before next week. So what I'll retcon that is that those of you with beast law will either get good quality or bad quality, depending on the role. And those of you without beast law get bad quality or nothing. Does that make sense? So if you don't have beast law and you succeed, you get a lower quality good. And if you fail, you get nothing. Like you try and it just doesn't come out or it falls apart or whatever. And then beast law is good quality, bad quality. Does that all make sense?
Yes.
We'll double check it.
Yep.
Next week.
Yep.
Cool. Next, anything next? No, baby Garugs. Yeah. Don't blame me. Blame Free League.
As soon as we went into the cave and heard the noise, I called it. I was just like, yeah, what would Free League do here to make the players feel awful?
Yeah. It does tickle me that they give the market value of the baby fur, but not the adult fur.
You know what Elintra's going to do if we come back this way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
And I also have some sympathy for it because
it's actually probably the most humane thing to do.
They may well starve to death. Yeah. John, I'm taking a detour to get the Viagra involved. Oh yeah, you could like go and get the Viagra in the next day or so and be like, there's a bunch of little bears.
They grow up to be really big bears. Look at the size of this
probably
tooth.
Love that.
Maybe we could just take the whole bears with us and sell them to Viagra and make even more money.
Seems easy and scratch and bite free. Next, what we got? Got anything left?
More along the lines of
Aaron could start his own separate party. Everyone's getting a pet.
there was talk of setting up a petting zoo somewhere.
I thought like the everyone's getting a pet thing. Is that like a Game of Thrones direwolf sort of reference situation?
Maybe.
I choose to read it as everyone's getting a pet, like a little bit of encouragement because we've been through a lot and kind of need it.
I tell you what, though, if we could train these things, can you imagine the party? Just
Imagine the
wiping out?
initiative order drama.
Can you imagine how many rations we'd have to pack for them, though?
You just have
Lindra,
6
mother of
full-size-
Garug.
Yeah, 6 full-side Garug that you just like. Well, what are you doing in this combat? Well, we're sending the Garug in.
Yeah,
Riding the Garrigan.
riding the Garug.
Nice. Nice. Question to the players from Xeron. Out of the other PCs, which one does your character trust the most, respectively the least? Let's just say the most and the least, because I'm not sure which you intended there. But like, yeah. Do you mean of the other player characters? Okay, yeah. So who's your kind of best buddy, and maybe who's your least best buddy out of all the other player characters? How about? And obviously we can include Anton in this, and also Ephania.
Why though?
Brutal. Let's go. Yeah, that was the wrong thing to roll. Why am I rolling that? John, historically the one of us who can make decisions the quickest and easiest.
Yeah, yeah.
Who's Aaron's best party buddy?
Well, I know best is probably Steo because he seems most aligned to Aaron's wants and points of view and morality and thoughts and etc.
Sure.
Honestly, least God. I mean, his faith was somewhat shaken by the whole Ascari stabbing his cat thing, but it's more. That's more. We think the cracks are beginning to show with Ascari rather than he has any malicious intent.
Sure.
Whereas I think Alindra can be a bit too bloodthirsty for Aaron, especially if she goes and slaughters those adorable baby polar bears.
About to starve baby polar bears.
Not if we give them to the Viaga. We can fit them on all of the Zarek's fishing ships.
By the cracks are beginning to show for Ascari, do you mean the pressure of carrying the party is getting to it?
Yes.
Fair enough. Stephen, how about yourself?
It's a tough one for who she trusts the most. Like, I think she likes Steo's kind of tactical thinking, and she appreciates like Antom's kind of like religious insight. But I think Ascari is the one that she knows is most likely to always kind of come good when it comes to a fight. With that one exception of that incredibly bad day.
Yeah.
And least trust. I don't think it's a question of trust, but I think Alindra has recognized that morally she comes from a very different place to Aaron, and that there is a chance that one day Aaron will step in to quite forcefully try to stop her doing something that she thinks is probably okay. So
fair enough. Sam.
I think Ascari trusts the whole party a lot in general. I think most will be a toss-up between Anton and Steo, but probably goes to Anton because Steo is now in the Iron Pact, and he's been traveling with them the longest and knows them the best. And I think Ascari and Anton do have a little bit of a bond. Least, I think it probably depends on like in what situation. Like I think Ascari trusts everybody, I think to trust someone like to make a hard decision or to do what is necessary, maybe trust Aaron the least to be like, this is in like, it's not a moral decision, but it's the best decision for the party. But in other situations, might be Alindra in terms of like going too far. So it depends on the situation. Like, I
yin
think,
and yang.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's why it does see that Alindra is maybe on the end of the party, which is more like practically based decision making, and so has some trust in that, but also recognize that Aaron is a very like morally good person, and so has trust in that sense that they're like not going to do anything like horrible because they're too good. So it's a bit of a mix.
Fair enough. And Chris.
I'm glad someone picked Dan, Tom, because it's not going to be me. So
I would
Steve's in this
assume
weird...
I would assume your all-time most trusted is Ephania.
Yeah. Who was she again?
that witch that came to Visserhold.
Oh yeah. No, I did like it. Yeah. No, but like Steve's got a kind of a quantum superposition of trust going on between Lord Dar and Ascarai, due to the fact that like he really wants to be Ascarai's friend, but understands that the pact is going to make that difficult because Ascarai's got a bee in his bonnet about the elves. And likewise, Arendar is most aligned to him because of the pact, but also the whole question of he's going to have to make a decision regarding the nobility thing soon, and that's got Steo worried that like decisions are going to have to be made.
Yeah, it's I guess that leaves Alindra as your least by default.
No, so it's between those two for my most and or least, depending on the very specific situation.
Okay, I see.
So
fair enough.
Everyone else is nice average shade of beige.
Fair enough. And we had this, I think this last comment, just a quick one from Dungeoneering VTT. Great question, as it absolutely was. By the way, I miss Mike in the party and Anton by extension. We do as well. And we know he's watching, not right now, but he's certainly keeping up to date on things. We miss you, Mike, and we look forward to you being back with us, as he will be. So there we go. Lovely stuff. Thank you for watching. Thank you for playing. Take care and stay safe. And we will see you soon for more Symbaroum. Maybe not next week. We're not sure yet. Keep tuned into our social media and Discord to find that out. But we will see you either in a week or in 2 weeks' time. So, yeah. Goodbye. Goodbye, folks.